couldn't leave it hang last night. It did not get cold enough. Actually, I thought it was supposed to get colder and it didn't. So it's a good thing I had that refrigerator. Any old refrigerator will work. Mine is actually a store display unit for ice cream. They work nice. You quarter a deer or smaller, you can actually fit them in there. You just want to make sure you keep it clean, and then you turn it down. I turn it down usually as low as it'll go. Usually you put a warm deer in there, you know, overnight. You're not going to freeze it. If you do freeze it, it's not going to be solid, so it's still going to be workable. Not a whole lot there, it's pretty thin. Anyway, got the ribs, the outside meat pretty clean on them. Like I said, I do not take the inside because of how the level of bacteria. Now, this is going to be a little hard because it doesn't really want to flip. Neck kind of settled in that position, pointing the other way, so I'm going to take this side of rib now. Trim this fatty stuff away first again. Up to the back. Gotta be careful, there's a nice piece of meat in there. Back straps. Some people call it tenderloins, although it's not. Deer only have two tenderloins. Just like a cow and any other animal, and they're not on the outside, they're on the inside. And I think most hunters will call that a back strap. It's actually, if you had a beef cow, it would be a New York strip. If you cut it with the bone in it, it would be split this way, and then it would be cut this way. It would be where your T-bones come from, or your pork loin chops. I'm just going to fillet it out, which is, I think, what most people do. And then I'm going to cut it up into something like a boneless pork chop. Now see how nice that fat comes off of there? There's a seam there. Go ahead and get the damaged area out of the way first. That way, if I'm trimming back good meat, I'm not laying it into the contaminated areas. You know, this is just surface. The arrow did come through right there, then it just basically created a big bruise. Nice and clean. This little watery membrane here I'll kind of scrape off. I'll grab a paper towel and pull it off. That'll actually dry, and it'll dry into just a thin membrane over the meat. Now I'm going to come up and kind of follow the neck around, get this nice piece off. Remember, I'm going to cook down the rest of the neck, so I don't have to go real deep right now. But I do want to get this because you go down to the rib, and there is some meat there. When I was growing up, we always cut between the rib bones. I don't really like doing that. Like I said, the guts are on the inside, and I think a lot of people may get their dislike of wild game from the taste of it, and a lot of times it's from maybe it hasn't been cleaned quite right, or like I was saying in my other video, that the time of the hunt, if the deer is stressed or whatever, running a lot, that will greatly affect the flavor. And, you know, people eat some wild game one time and they're just, if it's not good, that's it. You know, they don't want to try it again, it's a mindset that you get, and, you know, if somebody, you ride a bike, you fall off, yeah, you don't really want to get back on, although you have to, because that's the way you overcome your fears. You know, you eat wild game, it's good for you. It's a lot better than a lot of this garbage that you're getting out of the store. Now that's going to be clean enough for this. Maybe one more spot here if I can. Alright, I think that's going to be pretty much mixed in. So now I'm going to take this piece. What I'm doing here, you can kind of see that there's a little bit something in there. This is where I'm getting at the back strap I was talking about. So I'm just going to clean up this. I don't want to, this is just neck muscle here. No back strap. Tough. Like I said, best thing for it is burger, or if you cook it down, and you gotta really cook the stuff long. Slow cooker, crock pot, pressure can it. Something that you gotta do to tenderize it. Just get a little of this fat off. Alright, now I'm gonna, that little piece of sirloin that I had on the hind quarter actually came from right there. This is also sirloin toward the tail end of this. What I'm gonna do here, this fat really set up since last night, but I think if I get that seam, I'll be able to work it off of there without too much trouble. Once I get it started. Really fatty dough. It's only September 14th. Well, it was yesterday when I shot it. But yeah, you can see it's already building up a pretty good store of fat for the winter. Working that through that seam. There's a kind of a protective, I don't know that it's protective, it's not really protecting it from anything, but it kind of encases the back strap. Now see how I'm getting that nice back strap out of there? You just have to work at it. It's not necessarily going to be an easy thing to cut up meat, but it's well worth it. Now I've got this one down. I'm going to go across the backbone. Right at the backbone, the fat will get really thin where the bone comes right to the surface. I'm just going to take that off. Take my little scraps here and throw them in for burger. Now, this is the back strap. One side. The backbone runs right here. The back strap is here. This is what the tendon that moves the neck up and down, controls it. This will be huge on a buck. Then on the other side there's going to be the same thing. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start up at the front and just kind of work my way down, rolling it out, taking it out of the seam, Oh, missed a little piece of meat there. So I'm starting at the front. You want to hold your knife against the backbone. That way you're cutting into the bone, not into the meat. You're not gonna, I mean, you could cut the bone a little bit, but. Alright. Make sure you start up high enough so that you're coming in, and keep your knife tip towards the bone, not the meat. You don't want to, it's too easy to be cutting along and you'll reach in and next thing you know you're cutting into the meat and you've gone quite a ways and didn't realize it, and you really don't want that. Like that. I just cut into it a little, nothing serious. So I fix it, I come back and the main reason for getting the fat off ahead of time is because the fat is stiff, and the more flexible this is while you're cutting it, the easier it's going to be to get off, because this skin right here and any fat that's remaining will be cut off in one quick, easy step once I'm done with this. Once I get it off of the animal. Now see, I'm getting around to that back spot of it. So you know you're almost done when you coming around there. Just keep on working front to back, back to front, little cuts. Knife to the bone, not the meat. Pulling as you go. It's going to run all the way up to the neck, and it is going to end up as part of the neck muscle. It'll actually run to the chin, but that's not all going to be backstrap. That's going to get quite tough up at the neck end. The more a muscle moves, the tougher it is. That's how it works. So this along the back, it moves, but it's fairly tender because it's a long, lean muscle. Now you get up toward the neck, it's a shorter muscle. When do you ever see a deer and he's not doing this number, head moving and looking and sniffing and eating? And the only time they pretty much aren't moving is either when they're looking at you or when they're dead. They probably even move in their sleep. I'm just taking my knife now and scraping. Scraping, not cutting. And I'm looking at this and I see where this yellow tendon started. That indicates where the neck actually starts. And if you, as you cut it, it kind of snaps back like rubber. Now I'm going to cut it to right there, cut it off. Now that's a long, lean piece of meat. Now this is going to be tough. So this is what I'm going to do. Slide my board to the edge of the table. I want to make sure my knife is good and sharp for this. I skin fish the same way as I'm about to do this. Quite effective, and it's much easier to take the fish away from the skin than it is to take the skin away from the fish. So what I did there is I just cut off that last piece of fat. Now what I'm going to do, trim this even it up. Is I'm going to put my knife in, and I'm going to lose a little on the end because, you know, you want to, actually I think I'm going to start in the middle. Move your knife right to the edge of the table. That way when you go this way, you can get your knife down. You want your knife down right almost to the block level. So you cut down, and then you just push. Very little back and forth movement, or you'll cut right through it. Get to the end, flip it over. I missed a tiny spot right there, and right there. But I tell you what, that is a nicely cut piece of meat. That little bit can stay on there. Then when I cut this into steaks, I'm going to cut it this way. Dut, 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 dut. Or I'll leave it as a roast. When you cut it to eat it, you cut it this way. Now, these are small, so I'll cut it almost all the way through, flip it open, and butterfly it. Put that in my goodie bag over here. Now you see there's a little bit on there. If you want, you can kind of try to go back and get it. Maybe scrape it off. So you go, there's more color. I mean, it's basically just color, but that would taste good raw right now. I'm not going to eat it because I'm not really sure about raw venison. Now I'm going to flip it around and go back the other way. This end is going toward the neck, remember, so it's going to be a little tougher. See, it separates right there. You got that gristle seam down the middle now instead of on the outside, because it got up toward the neck. It became two muscles instead of one. It's not the long, lean muscle. Cut that up. Clean off what you can. And throw that away. That's not good for anything. Dogs would like it maybe. I know my cat would like it. Go back. This is that neck piece I cut off. No good. Don't even grind. Don't even try to freeze it and grind it, because all it's going to do is clog up your grinder. This is like rubber. That's no good for anything. Except maybe, well, I shouldn't say that because I'm guessing that somebody can use that for something. I don't know of a use for it, so I stand corrected. I will not say that there's no use for anything, because if nothing else, all that stuff could be used as bait if you wanted to. If it's legal to bait with meat, it's not legal everywhere. Now we got this side, like I said, most people, most animals, it's easier to do one side than the other. Now this is going to be my more difficult side. I wish I could cut meat left-handed, because I probably would have a lot better time with this side of the animal if I was cutting with my left hand. Just clean it up a little bit, as I've said before. It'd be nice if I could just lay it open like that, but it's kind of cumbersome now, which is what I meant by one side being harder than the other. prep work to get it that back strap. This table is just a little bit lower than I like. You shouldn't be bending over when you're cutting, because you're going to end up sore with a sore back. The table height should be about right there. So you're lifting your arms just a little bit. It's a much more comfortable height. But this is an old table, old kitchen table, so now this side I'm going to come in same way, kind of. But like I said, this is my off side. So it's going to be a little bit harder.